Pope Francis. If I were to resign, I would remain as I would remain in Rome as Bishop Emeritus, not as Pope Emeritus. So this happened. This is reported on the Vatican News, and this is basically reporting from this interview, which you can find on YouTube, of Pope Francis with, I think, a Mexican television station. And they asked him about a few things. And you won't hear the audio, but the lady here, the interviewer, was asking him, about the Pope Emeritus, Benedict, and it's so confusing. You got two men dressed in white, both called Pope, both living in the Vatican. So what are you going to do? We need some clarification. It's very confusing. That's what I kind of got from the question. And so the reports we're going to go through now are based upon this interview. It's not fake news because you can see it right there. And it is reported on the Vatican News website itself. So we're going to go through the Vatican News one, a bit more detail from the National Catholic Reporter by Father Thomas Rees, the Jesuits, who thinks we have a new ecclesiology and a new Eucharistic understanding. That's why we need to banish the real Roman Rite and just come up with new canons which reflect the new ecclesiology and Eucharistic understanding in the fake Roman Rite of Paul VI. I went through that on another video. Anyway, so we're going to go through it. And so basically 3 articles: Vatican News, Thomas Rees on National Catholic Reporter, and this one, which is actually from CNA, Catholic News Agency, which was reproduced at the Catholic World Report. So that shouldn't be too long of a video, I hope. But anyways, this is kind of an important thing because let's see what Francis says. Because Benedict XVI absolutely, and there is no, actually they tell him in this video, the report says, this Pope Emeritus saying basically was something new, just Benedict came up with, which is, and Francis doesn't disagree because it is actually new. And that's exactly what Gonswine says, which is the personal secretary of Benedict XVI for forever and ever. And he himself said, we're going to go through it, that basically, Benedict invented that term. And Benedict was history's first ever Pope Emeritus. A thing he invented out of thin air, out of the blue. As if he can do that. So anyways, that's based upon this interview here. And let's go quickly through each article and some bit of a commentary. So basically in the Vatican News website, it says that is, this is a very recent interview, like a few days ago. Anyways, so he says, if I were to resign, I would remain in Rome as Bishop Emeritus, because they asked him, would you go to Argentina? He said, no, I wouldn't go to Argentina, which is a country of his birth, and he has never visited as Pope. And I'm using quotation marks because I have doubts about the validity of Benedict XVI's renunciation of the active exercise of the ministry while never relinquishing the munus of the Petrine office, which was always and forever. So anyways, that's a big long story. So resignation conjectures. So this is again from Vatican News. So he says, for the future, however, he added, it would be better to define things or explain them better regarding the thing about Pope Emeritus or a resigned Pope, a Pope who resigns, as if something is like so weird. In the past, popes were resigned voluntarily or involuntarily, and they simply became a bishop. Like this is back to their original name. They are no longer holding the office of the papacy, because the papacy is an office. It is not a sacrament. They went back to their former state. Very easy, very simple. They are creating something out of nothing, a complication out of a no complication. So he said, and this is what Benedict Francis says, I am the Bishop of Rome. In that case, I would be the Bishop Emeritus of Rome, he said. So he says basically, I'm not going to be Pope Emeritus. If I were to do that, I would be a Bishop Emeritus of Rome. And this is actually what a lot of canonists and told Benedict, if you want to resign, you become just Bishop Emeritus. You're no longer Pope Emeritus, but Benedict invented that term because he wanted to remain Pope. He said, that's basically what it is. And so this is just the quick quote from the Vatican News one. I wanted to show you, but because there's more of a detailed expert in the Catholic the national so-called Catholic Reporter. So Pope Francis is not going to resign, and this is by Thomas Rees, a very trusted advisor, or a trusted Jesuit in good standing reporter / priest. So he's always wholeheartedly with Francis in all respects. So here we go. So this is his article. So he's basing it upon the recent interviews. Actually, he talks about a couple of different interviews with journalists. Pope Francis responded to the rumors about his, are you going to resign? We heard you're going to resign, and we're going to go to visit Saint Celestine's tomb. And Francis says this is just a coincidence, has nothing to do. I have no contemplation of resigning right now, or anything. So, anyways, so you can go over the article, anyways, if you want to find it. It's called Pope Francis is not going to resign yet. That's from the National Catholic Reporter, printed July 22nd, 2022. So again, I'm going to go through the irrelevant parts about the Pope Emeritus thing, and let's see what here. So this is what Thomas Rees says. But Francis makes clear he would not follow Benedict's example. And actually, in the interview, on the audio, when you hear it, Pope Francis calls him Pope Benedict. He refers to him as constantly as Pope Benedict, which is kind of something to think about. Anyways, but Francis makes clear he would not follow Benedict's example on how to be a retired pope. Benedict, the first pope to give up the throne of St. Peter in 600 years. Did he really give up the throne? He actually did say, we're going to go through it, he did give up the power for governance, the power of office for governance, but never not the office itself, as we're going to see, which is a thing I harped on in many different videos. It's in 600 years. Set his own course. So Benedict set his own course, which is absolutely true. So truth coming from a Jesuit, unbelievable as it might seem, but it is in this case, it's true. Taking the title, set his own course, taking the title of Pope Emeritus, continuing to wear the papal white cassock and living inside the Vatican and being called Pope and being addressed as Holiness. Yeah, okay. He's not Pope then, I guess. Holiness, Pope, Vatican, white cassock. All right. Francis told Televisa Univision, that if he were to resign, he would retire to the house for priests in Rome, but not within the Vatican walls. Again, to emphasize, he's no longer Pope, or if he ever is Pope, if he ever was Pope. That he would just live in a house for priests or retired priests, and not within the Vatican wall. And just for your info, the so-called Bishop Emeritus of a diocese, this is again an innovation of the destroyer of the Roman Rite, the non-saint Paul VI. if he could be in heaven, but definitely maybe he he converted at the end of his last moment of his life and regretted his destruction of the Roman liturgical and disciplinary patrimony. And who knows? But anyways, it was Paul VI who introduced this age of retirement for bishops, 75. And actually, if you read the Code of Canon Law, it doesn't actually force anything. It says bishops are asked to submit the resignation. They're not forced to. Like if I was a bishop, I would say, well, see, the code says, just asked. Yeah, well, okay, sorry, I actually don't feel like it. I'm not going to resign. I'm the father of this diocese. I'm not going to abandon my children. This is an innovation. Bishops and popes never resigned. They ruled until the day they died, or were deposed for heresy or apostasy or something. Anyways, so that's another innovation of a Bishop Emeritus of Chicago. No, there's no such thing. Well, it's an invention again of Paul VI. So again, he would not be living inside the Vatican because, yeah, you're no longer Pope. You no longer wear white. You no longer keep your papal name. Oh, that's another thing with Benedict. He kept his papal name, which he himself says. So you're keeping your papal name when you're not Pope. Again, doesn't make any sense. So Francis said this interview he would retire to home for priests and not within the Vatican walls. So, and he actually, I'll be honest, I actually do not like Francis one bit. That's from day one. From actually as soon as I saw him on the loggia, on the balcony, I said, my heart fell in my stomach. I said, who is this person? He looks not what I wanted. Anyways, and my expectation was fulfilled. And from day one, he's been attacking the faith, attacking traditional Catholics, attacking traditional orders, from the Franciscans of the Immaculate to the Knights of Malta, to now the traditional priests of the traditional orders and the monasteries. But again, when you're listening to him here on the video, he sounds so nice, so down to earth. But I guess somebody who could be, who does not, he seeks to destroy, he wouldn't like come out like a monster. Like the Antichrist isn't going to show himself to be. I'm not saying Francis is an Antichrist, but remember, there's the Antichrist and then there's the false prophet. So there's the political leader and the religious leader, and the false prophet. Many fathers were thinking is going to be a bishop of Rome, a pope of Rome, a false prophet to uphold the Antichrist, the false Christ. Anyways, well, that's a different subject. But yeah, Antichrist will be like, wow, so nice. He's so intelligent. He's so powerful. He's so eloquent. He's not going to come out like an evil man. Same thing as St. Paul says. The devil comes out as he masquerades as an angel of light. He doesn't come out like this monster, most evil man. But for Francis, who is constantly attacking the faith, that makes him evil. Constantly attacking holiness, that makes him evil. Constantly attacking the heritage of the church, that makes him evil. In a objective manner, he is objectively evil. He is objectively bad. He is objectively an anti-Catholic. Objectively speaking. Subjectively, who knows? Maybe he thinks he's actually doing good for the church. But anyways, as I said, when you're listening to him, oh, he's so calm, he's so down to earth sounding. Oh, it's okay. I almost felt, some sympathy for him. So anyways, so he says in the interview, he refers to himself as becoming the Bishop Emeritus of Rome, not Pope Emeritus. Of course, he praised Benedict and so forth, and but things he have to be made more clear, and more explicit guidelines for the roles of retired popes, and to create more explicit guidelines for retired popes. He says, so he's quoting Francis, I guess, but some, including me, or is this To avoid the criticism of Benedict, Francis calls the initial framework created by Benedict as a first step. What do you mean first step? Popes have resigned in the past. Nothing, you resign the office, you're no longer Pope, period. You dress in your black cassock, you take your original name, and you don't live in the Vatican, and that's it, end of story, period. What's so complicated about that? Anyways, so it's the first step in a need of further delineation. But some, including me, this is, I guess, Thomas Rees. But some, including me, have criticized Benedict XVI of the use of the title Pope Emeritus, and not only you, because this is a total invention of Benedict, and the wearing of the papal white. I also believe that a retired pope, this is Thomas Rees, should return to using his baptismal name. Well, obviously, he's no longer pope, so they cannot use his papal name. Thus, in retirement, Benedict would officially be known as Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, Bishop Emeritus of Rome. There is room for only one pope in the Catholic Church. Yes, we agree about that 100%. The question is Francis Pope? Has Benedict's resignation been valid? Was it valid? Did Benedict fully resign the papal office, or simply a partial resignation of the governing aspect of the office without resigning the office, which would render it null and void? That is the question. New rules are needed. This is Thomas Rees speaking. That to make it clear by suppressing the Pope Emeritus title. Yeah, I 100% agree. You're sounding like a traditionalist there, Thomas Rees, because it's a total invention, a total novelty, just like the new Mass, like the new liturgical rites for the seven sacraments, like the new orientation of the Church after Vatican II. Total novelty. Other symbolic gestures, and actually the as I said, resignation of bishops at the age of 75, the banning of cardinals from voting after the age of 80, I think, or something. The expansion of papal powers worldwide, as if he is the supreme and only bishop around the world, and he can just, move the bishops around like pawns, like they are his vicars and not the successors of the apostles, as on they're the Christs of their own diocese. These are all novelties which need to be suppressed. Other symbolic gestures might also be considered. For example, the retired pope might line up after the conclave with the other cardinals when they swear their allegiance to the new pope, which of course Benedict did not do. It is on the contrary. It was Francis who went and kissed the hands of Benedict. Anyways, and this is probably one of the pictures where whenever Francis chooses cardinals, he brings them all to Benedict to basically kneel in front of him, kiss his hand, and receive the double papal blessing of Benedict and Francis. So this is Thomas Rees's article. So for the most part, I 100% agree with you. Now, this is the final article. It's from again, this is to emphasize the question. So the Pope Emeritus puzzle. Will Francis rewrite the rules of resignations? The rules are clear in the Code of Canon Law. The Code of Canon Law, Canon 332, number 2, says the Pope, he can resign, and if he resigns, he has to resign the office. And by resigning the office, the munus, that's it, it's effective. He resigns. And Canon 188, of course, it will nullify that resignation if there was, extortion or simony or fear or substantial error, like trying to split the papal office into an expanded Petrine office, like Benedict apparently wanted, a whole bunch of other things. Or resigning the power for governance but maintaining the office in the spiritual powers of the papacy, which Benedict said to Peter Seewald, which I talked about previously, which in one of my videos is called I'm ontologically Pope, basically. I cannot not be Pope, basically. So anyways, so this is the article, basically goes over the same stories about Francis saying, yeah. So again, it repeats it, that Benedict decided to take the title of Pope Emeritus. Francis' conception of the office differs from that of his predecessor. Benedict decided to take the title of Pope Emeritus. He invented the title of Pope Emeritus because it never ever existed in the history of the Church. To continue wearing the white, although without the pellegrina, which is the white mantle symbolizing episcopal authority. And that's what they're talking about. See that? See where my hand is here? That is this thing. See, Pope Benedict is not wearing this, which is like a little cape over the shoulders. And what does this symbolize? Which is the white mantle, stop this thing, symbolizing episcopal authority. And why is that? Because we're going to see now in Pope Benedict's last audience, he himself says that he is giving away the power of office for governance. So his authority to govern. But he never gives up the office. That's why he's not wearing that. I'm still Pope. I'm still wearing white. See, I'm still wearing white. I'm still called Holiness. I still live in the Vatican. I am still called Pope. I still have my papal name, Benedict. I am still addressed as Holiness, Your Holiness. But I'm not wearing that because I'm still Pope, but I gave away the power for governance, but I'm maintaining my papal spiritual part of the office. You can't do that. You can't have two. You can't split the papacy. When you resign the office, you resign the office. And Benedict himself, in his resignation, he resigned, I renounce the active exercise of the ministry, but not the office. The ministerium, but not the munus. Anyways, so I did a whole bunch of videos on this topic. So he continues. Benedict XVI defined the terms of his resignation. Benedict XVI defined the terms of his resignations. I'm defining, what do I mean by resign? That's basically what it is. In his last general audience. So he was still as Pope. So people say, well, you're reading into his declaratio, his declaration of his renunciation, what you want to understand. No. When those who doubt, who have a certain level of doubt about the validity of the Benedict XVI renunciation, all they have to do is go here to Pope Benedict as still technically Pope on February 27th in his last general audience and read exactly what he meant by his renunciation of the active exercise of the ministry. Even the Code of Canon Law requires that you renounce the munus, the office. And munus is not ministerium. It's two different things. So he quotes what he says here. So let me just, okay. So, all right. So it's pretty much done. So he says, Benedict, all right. So he didn't, Okay, so Benedict XVI defined the terms of his resignation in his last general audience as Pope. He's still called Pope on February 27th, 2013. There can no longer be a return to the private sphere. My decision to resign the active exercise of the ministry, not the ministry. I'm not resigning the ministry, but only the active exercise of the ministry. Does not revoke this. What is this talk? What is this? What is this? I'll let you know in a second what this is. I do not return to private life, meetings, blah, 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 blah. So I'll tell you here. But anyways, let me finish up with this article and we're going to see the full context of this quotation from Benedict XVI himself. In practice, Benedict XVI distinguishes between the munus and officium. that is between the function and the exercise of the function. Once elected pope, he remains a pope forever. This is basically Benedict's understanding. Like, yeah, I'm a pope and I'm ontologically pope. I am pope no matter what. I cannot not be pope. This is his understanding. If that's his understanding, then he is still pope. then his intention of renouncing is he didn't renounce the papacy, so the papal office was still full. Therefore, nobody else can fill the already filled papal office. That's the. Anyways, he talks about Rahner and his understanding of the papacy, and you've got this magical. Certainly, yeah, it's like Karl Rahner, a modernist theologian, had come to consider the primacy conferred upon the election as the highest degree of the sacrament of orders, as if it's a higher than the episcopacy. No, it's not, because if you're not a bishop when you're elected pope, so a priest could be elected pope, a layman could be elected pope. The rules are you have to be ordained or consecrated a bishop. So you go through the various degrees of ordination up to the consecration of bishop, and then you're pope even as a layman. Like St. Peter was pope as a layman. Really. Oh, well, not really. Sorry, my mistake. Because at the Last Supper, they were all ordained, consecrated by Christ the King, the high priest, as high priest of the new and eternal covenant. But he gave them the power of the keys before he consecrated him high priest. He gave Peter the keys, the power, the papacy, while he was still a layman. So this is what Benedict thinks. That's 100% true. And yeah, it's not a second sacrament. It's not a higher order of the. There's no. You can't invent Pope Emeritus. You can't invent an eighth sacrament. You can't do any of that stuff. You can't split the papacy into contemplative and an active ministry. You can't expand the Petrine office. You can't do any of that. Let's see. I remember what I said. What is this he's quoting as Pope, as still holding the power for governance? What did Benedict really mean by his declaratio, his declaration of renunciation of the papal office? Should I? You know what? I'll finish up with something else. Okay, so because I'm going to finish up with a little quote from here, The Secret of Benedict by Antonio Socci, regarding again the timing of the renunciation. What does that mean? But let's not jump around. So let's see. So this is Pope Benedict's, you can find it on the Vatican website. So general audience, St. Peter's Square, Wednesday, 27th of February 2013. So we're going to find what this is. Allow me to go back once again to 19 April 2005. This is the day he was elected Pope. He was elected Bishop of Rome, Supreme Pastor of the Universal Church, successor of the Prince of the Apostles. The real gravity of the decision was also due to the fact that from that moment I was engaged always and forever. So the gravity of the decision of his renunciation of the active exercise. So he says, when he received this on April 18th, 19th April 2005, he was engaged always and forever. I'll let you read. I did like several videos quoting this analyzing this his renunciation, this letter, and a whole bunch of other things. So let's see what he actually says. The always is also forever, and that can no longer be returned to the private sphere. The decision, now here is his Benedict's own explanation of his renunciation. What did he mean? So there's no, he actually abdicated the papacy. No, he didn't. My decision to resign, what? The active exercise of the ministry, does not revoke this, which was April 20, 19th, 2005, which was it was engaged always and forever. So, receiving the papal office in 2005, his renunciation of the active exercise of the papal office does not revoke his acceptance of the papal office. So it does not revoke him being pope. This is basically what Benedict is saying. My renunciation of the active exercise does not revoke my papacy, which I received in 2005, because it is an always and a forever. And so he says, I know, again, he's explaining his renunciation. I no longer bear the power of office. I no longer bear what? The office? No. The power of office for the governance of the church. That's why he's not wearing the little cape. So I'm still wearing the white. I'm still called Pope. I'm still have my papal name. I still live in the Vatican. I'm still called Your Holiness. But I'm not wearing the little cape thingy. So, which symbolizes power for governance, episcopal power of governance. That's why he removed it in his mind of the church. But in the service of prayer, I remain in the enclosure of St. Peter. So he's still the successor of St. Peter. His renunciation of the active exercise did not revoke his papacy. And he simply gave up the power for governance. That's what he says. That's what Benedict himself says. So, and in case this isn't clear enough, his personal secretary in 2016, Archbishop Gonswein, and people say, well, he retracted this, he changed this. No, he didn't. He has a book. Go to Amazon and you find Gonswein book. And it's a collection of essays which he wrote. And in one of the essays is his expanded Petrine office speech in full. And actually even more explicit in certain parts. So this is, you can find the full speech here, complete text. You can look it up yourself. Again, this is in 2016, so 3 years after Benedict renounced the active exercise of the ministry. So where he gave up the power for governance, but this power, giving up the power for governance, does not revoke what he received, the papacy, in 2005. This is what Benedict says. So what does Gonswein say here? So Choya, this Pope Emeritus thing is a total fabrication. It is a total invention. And the papacy has the grace of office. I've read many times that when somebody's elected Pope, even though he might not be they get a bit of a grace, at least for doctrine and faith, and they can preach the faith, maybe preach good morals, but maybe they can be corrupt personally. I mean, we ourselves, we can say, well, this is a sin, this is evil, this is wrong, and yet we ourselves can commit these things for our weakness, our sinfulness, and so forth. But we know, and we do not say that evil is good and good is evil. We say evil is evil and good is good. But personally, we could be evil. We could do evil things. So same thing with the Pope. He gets the grace to say the truth, especially when he's teaching. So anyways, so if a Pope is a non-validly, canonically elected Pope, Bishop of Rome, he would not be getting, I think Cardinal Mueller himself said that in one of the articles I reviewed in the past. Cardinal Mueller says, the grace of office is given to, grace of office of the papacy is given to a validly elected Pope. So if there's a Pope who is not validly elected, or even a bishop in his own diocese, he would not get the grace of office. That kind of explains a lot, don't you think? Anyways, so this is what Gonswein says in 2016, and then reprinted in a book, I think it was 2019 or 2020, or, a few years after. Benedict understood and understands. So understood when he was still had the power for governance, and understands now that he's a Pope Emeritus. His task in participation in such a Petrine ministry, in the Petrine office. He's participating even now in the office of Peter. He left the papal throne for governance, and yet, with that step made in February 11th, 2013, has not at all abandoned this ministry. And in his book, I think it translates it as this office. Instead, he's complemented with a personal office with a collegial and synodal dimension. So that's what Gonswein said. He has not abandoned the office. He still participates in this Petrine ministry, Petrine office, and he understands. And he's still called Benedict. And then the rest of the speech. So since the election of his successor, Francis, on March 13th, 2013, there are not therefore two popes. Oh, actually, but de facto, in fact, an expanded office. Now, ministry is said here in his book. It says clearly office, because he's talking about the office of Peter. A de facto expanded office with an active member and a contemplative member. So a governing member, meaning Francis, who has the power for governance, and a contemplative member, which is Benedict, who is participating in the spiritual aspect of the office. Now he explains to people, why is Benedict still dressed in white? Why is he? Well, because. Why is he still called Pope? Why? Because there is now, according to Gonswein and according to Benedict himself, who said his renunciation does not revoke his acceptance of the papacy in 2005. That is, and now it's an expanded ministry, an expanded Petrine office. That is why, this is what Gonswein says, that is why Benedict XVI has not given up either his name or the white cassock. That should answer your question. That is why the correct name by which to address him even today is Your Holiness. And that is also why he has not retired to a secluded monastery, but within the Vatican, because he's still participating in the expanded office of Peter and the papacy. All right. So he says, that's Gonswein again. Benedict XVI has not abandoned the office of Peter. If you have not abandoned the office of Peter, therefore you are still the Pope. Therefore, any Pope elected or Bishop of Rome elected after you is not the Pope. He could be maybe the administrator of Rome, but he is not the successor of, he is not the vicar of Christ, definitely, and he's not even the successor of Peter, because there can only be one successor of Peter at a time. Successor of Peter in one diocese, because, the bishops of Antioch are the successors of Peter, So, but in any, to make it clear again, he has not, this is what Gonswein says, he has not abandoned the office of Peter, which Benedict himself says that his renunciation does not revoke his acceptance of the office of Peter in 2005. Something which would have been entirely impossible for him after his irrevocable acceptance of the office in April 2005. And remember what we were just saying, Benedict XVI, his last audience, April 2005, and it's an always and forever, and that his renunciation does not revoke his acceptance of the office in 2005. And this is exactly what Gonswein says 3 years later, that he has not abandoned the office of Peter, something which would have been entirely impossible for him after his irrevocable acceptance of what? The office of what? The papacy in April 2005. So that's why Benedict invented out of thin air Pope Emeritus. So Benedict became history's first Pope Emeritus. So what about all the popes in the past? They gave up the office. They abdicated the papacy, renounced the papacy, and returned to their former status, or became monks and disappeared. Since then, his role, allow me to repeat it once again, in case for you people don't understand, is entirely different than from that, for example, of the Holy Pope Celestine, who actually resigned his office and became back to his normal self and wanted to become a monk. To date, in fact, there has never been a step like that taken by Benedict XVI. So, hey, popes resign is something normal. There's many popes who resigned in the past, and Benedict is the first in 600 years to resign. Nothing special here. No. In fact, here's again Gonswine, to date, in fact, not in your fantasy world, there has never been a step like that taken by Benedict XVI. So it is not surprising that it has been seen by some as a revolutionary. Yeah, well, it's not. Yeah, it is revolutionary. So here we go. So, yeah, at least, Francis here is right in saying, well, I'm not going to be Pope Emeritus. This is an invention. It's not clear. I'm going to just become a priest, bishop, retired bishop, and just, live my life outside of the Vatican. Probably return to his name Jorge. So yeah, so this is actually correct. This is how you actually resign. But here we can see from Benedict XVI his exact intention. What does he mean? And is repeated and explained again with virtually identical words by Gonswan, his personal secretary. As I said, Benedict Francis calls himself the Bishop of Rome, and from day one he's always been trying to call himself the Bishop of Rome. And I have the video, which actually tons of people watched, like 71,000 or something. I call it my name. I am Jorge. My name is Jorge. Don't call me the Vicar of Christ or something like that. Because yeah, in his the papal, the yearly papal, whatever it's called, yearbook, he removed the name of the successor of Peter, the Vicar of Christ, the Supreme Pontiff of the Universalist Church. So removing the Vicar of Christ, removing the successor of the Prince of the Apostles, St. Peter, removing the Supreme Pontiff of the Universal Church, he removed these titles as historical in nature. He just kept the title of Bishop of Rome. You can watch that video and see my rant about it. What did I want to do? Oh, yeah, so, I'll just do a separate video on this. It's about, again, anyways, this is, of course, my channel, so I have a section, is Benedict Pope, because Benedict says, I have a whole bunch of videos on the question, his own words and what others might say. Even Father Z had a question about that. And then another one on Francis, which is the first video, is my name is Jorge, not Vicar of Christ. How can you remove the title of Vicar of Jesus Christ from your titles as an historical title? So what, you're not a Vicar of Christ? Anyways, so you can watch these videos. Finally, again, as I said, the book, The Secret of Benedict, I did a bit of a review on it, probably not very, very good. It was, when I started just doing some videos. But I recalled reading in it, again, in Antonio Socci. Anyways, he in one of them, he was talking with the professor, canon law teacher, what is he? Francisco Patruno, a jurist, who has published many works concerning law, a doctor of research in the canonical and ecclesiastical sciences. So anyways, just to make a long story short, I was going to quote a whole paragraphs and paragraphs, but just buy the book. I'm not going to go over it, but basically his analysis is, if it's like when you accept the papacy, like when a bishop accepts, he's elected pope, he's chosen, he's still not pope, he has to accept. When you accept the papacy, you instantly become pope, and then they can ordain you a priest and then consecrate you a bishop if you're not, and then, but you're still pope. You're pope as the instant of your acceptance. So So he says the same thing with the marriage, because again, it's the kind of marriage of the man and the woman, the Pope and the Church. So again, he says, like, in a marriage, you say, as soon as you accept, yes, I accept, the marriage is valid. So the papacy, according to the law of the Church forever and ever, is you accept the election as Pope. You say, yes, I will accept it. At that instant, you are Pope, even if you're not a bishop. So you can then, for the resignation, a resignation to be valid, again, he's talking about the law, canon law, and so forth. I'm not going to go over it now. You can read the book. A resignation, you cannot put conditions. Well, I will no longer be Pope in 2 months. No, when you at the moment of acceptance, you became Pope. At the moment you renounce, you are no longer Pope. So, if Benedict's renunciation, declaratio, he says, well, I'm no longer going to be Pope in 2 weeks. No. When you resign, you instantly resign. You lose the papacy right away. You renounce the office right away. So basically he says, well, it's either he was not Pope in this term between his announcement and his official resignation, or this whole thing is totally null and void, because you cannot put conditions upon your renunciation of papal office. You renounce it at that time. That's it. I resign. So anyways, you can go over the Antonio Socci's book, which I did a review on. You can watch my review on it if you wish. And then in one of the articles, the one on here from the National, Pope Emeritus Puzzle article, he mentions in La Civiltà Cattolica, the magazine, the oldest, the Jesuit magazine in Rome, and Gianfranco Giralda, a Pope Professor Emeritus, Canon Law, Pontifical Gregorian University. So he wrote in 2013, so before Benedict invented the term Pope Emeritus, termination from the papal office. So I'm going to do a whole video on this, because I did mention it before. But how is a Pope no longer Pope? He gives how does the Roman see become vacant? Death, obviously. Certain perpetual insanity or total mental infirmity. So a certain American president might qualify for that one. 3, notorious apostasy, heresy, or schism. So a Pope can be in schism? Yes. A Pope can be an apostate? Yeah. A Pope can fall into heresy? Yes. And that would render the Roman see vacant. Or a waiver, a renunciation. So these are the 4 conditions. According to the second and third, which is mental infirmity, insanity, or apostasy, heresy, and schism, how does that is declared? The moment, so the apostolic see becomes vacant from the moment of the declaration of the cardinals. So the cardinals have to actually declare, and he explains that they simply declare the fact that this Pope is gone insane. He's insane. Or he is in schism. He's committing schism against the whole church. Or he has fallen into notorious heresy. So the cardinals simply declare the fact of the heresy or the apostasy or of the schism of the Roman pontiff, and at that instant the Roman see becomes vacant. Just in case somebody was interested in that fact, because a certain Dr. Taylor Marshall has mentioned, had videos on the question. Anyways, so here, a Jesuit in La Civiltà Cattolica, the Vatican newspaper pretty much, about how the Roman see becomes vacant. And one of them, number 2, is insanity, mental infirmity. Number 3, notorious apostasy, heresy. Notorious, visible, visual, and schism, but it has to be declared by the cardinals, the fact that the Roman see is vacant. Anyways, so we have to thank Jorge Mario Bergoglio also known as Pope Francis, for actually making clear. As I said, I kind of felt not sorry, but sympathetic to him. But again, his actions are louder than words. He can speak nicely and softly and carry a big stick. That's exactly what Francis does. He speaks softly and carries a big jumbo stick to bash the heads of Catholics. Those who hold the faith, those who want to practice the faith as it has always been, those who want to worship as their ancestors did. He wants to bash their heads in. But this is the merciful one, the humblest of the humble. But again, as I said, you are right. Pope Emeritus is a total invention. Pope has to give up completely the papacy, give up the papal name, give up the papal dress, not live in the Vatican. That is how you truly renounce the papacy. That is how you truly abdicate. Anyways, that's it. That's all. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.